Do you upload this on YouTube as well afterwards?
Yeah. Right. It's time to start, guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the year 2023 of the Change Leader series, BreakFree. So, are you ready to take your test automation game to the next level? Because today we'll be looking at the topic three-dimensional test automation strategy. My name is Geraldine, and I'll be your host for today. So, before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping rules. Your line is currently muted, but don't worry, you can submit your questions during the webinar through the chat option that you see at the bottom of your screen. We'll answer your question as a part of the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. And also, please note that this webinar is currently being recorded, and we'll send out the link of the recording so that you can have a watch later or share it with your friends or colleagues. So with that being said, let me quickly share a bit about the BreakFree series. So BreakFree was an idea that birthed out of the need for change in the testing domain. So we've seen the testing industry evolve and grow over the decade as a few leaders took the risk to break free from traditional approaches towards testing and come up with new ideas and practices. So we believe that this change can be accelerated at a much faster pace. So we took the liberty of identifying and inviting a few change leaders who breaking the mold and embracing change to see the QA industry evolve. So that's what BreakFree series is all about. And we hope that these sessions would spark ideas in each one of you to be the change that's needed in the QA industry. So the industry itself grows into greater leaps and bounds. So with that, let me welcome the change leader for today, Sahil Puri. So Sahil is a quality engineering lead having 10 plus years of rich experience in the software testing industry. He's currently an engineering manager at a growing startup, Zupi. He heads a team of quality engineers and handles key automation projects. He has a passion for quality and is an active contributor in the QA community. You will find him talking about his experiences and sharing best practices in various conferences and other events. He also enjoys learning from other experts and community members during the part of this journey. So without any further ado, let me hand it over to the speaker for today, Sahil Puri.
Hey, thank you, Geraldine. So, hi everyone. A very good evening and welcome to the session. First of all, I would start with thanking P. Cloudy and the team for such a humble introduction and also for this opportunity to share my experiences and learnings with everyone today through this webinar. So I think as already introduced, I am Sahil, having 10 plus years of experience in software testing industry. Now, what drives me in this role is the love and passion for quality and user experience. I'm currently working as an engineering manager for a growing startup company where I'm leading and managing a team of around 30 engineers. With that being said, without further delay, let's start with today's session. I think we have a good number of audience. So let's have a simple look on today's topic. Yeah. So what exactly is a multi-dimensional structure? Right. So I think all of us would have studied the concept of dimensions in our school or college years, which says that dimensions are a measure of size or distance of an object in one direction. Now, the number of dimensions which are used to represent a figure makes it an n-dimensional figure. For example, a dot, it neither has a length nor a breadth. So it's a zero-dimensional figure. Again, a line requires one dimension for its representation. So it's a 1D figure. Similarly, a square has two dimensions, length and breadth, represented by x and y axis. Also, a cube has another dimension added in the form of height, z axis, which makes it a three-dimensional figure. Now, this concept of multiple dimensions can be applied to anything and everything having multiple aspects or dimensions. Or it can be a figure, a real structure, a business, marketing, or even a development strategy. So, on this note, a multi-dimensional strategy is one which requires a holistic view of all the aspects in order to create the desired value. Now, this increased complexity of systems, processes, consumer behavior, digitization in today's world have led to the requirement of a multi-dimensional strategy. Now, based on this definition and what we have discussed till now, I want every one of you to give a thought to my next question. It says, is test automation strategy multidimensional? Now, hold on to that thought. We will come back to this question again very shortly. But let's first have a look at some facts which might help you to reach a conclusion. So the US testing industry is worth close to $7 billion by the end of 2022, with global budget reaching $40 to $50 billion mark, and the figure in India itself reaching 8 billion mark. Globally, IT industry spends around 28% of its total budget on testing, with a special push on automation. Over 60% of the teams have achieved more than 50% automation of their current test and related processes. And around 62% organizations have increased their yearly budget on testing as compared to last year. Now, these are all the good news for testing and automation community. But here's the last fact, which requires some brainstorming, which says that only 14% of product-based organizations and 9% of service-based organizations achieve close to or more than 80% of desired ROI, that is return of investment on the automation efforts. Now, there must be some serious gap that even after so much of budget allocation and so much of prioritization, only a specific percentage of teams are still satisfied and a major proportion remains dissatisfied with their automation efforts and automation strategies, right? Now, let's also look at some of the survey results that I managed to gather for the biggest struggle and pain points in using test automation today. Now, these problems or blockers, as you can see on your screen, vary from lack of training, hiring challenges, finding the right tooling, difficulty in setting the right process and approach across the organization, lack of standard reporting or metrics availability, budget allocation problems. 2, requirement changing too often, less or no time for test automation. Sometimes the senior management is not supportive enough of our vision related to automation. Some technical problems related to test data and environment setup. Again, depending on the level of DevOps in your current organization. Now, the lack of skilled resources, lack of mobile devices available for automation, and so on. Now, what comes first to your mind after looking at these survey results in the last 2 slides? Yes, I know what you're thinking. I'm also amazed by such a wide range of challenges faced by teams across the globe while building or starting a test automation project, right? So coming back to my original question, what do you all think? Is test automation strategy multidimensional? Yes, I think we all can agree, especially given by the last 2 slides where we saw a wide range of challenges that are faced by engineers like us in building the test automation project or test automation system in our organizations, and especially seeing the variety of challenges which are observed in each of these steps. It surely involves multiple aspects and multiple dimensions. Hence, it surely comes under the umbrella of a multi-dimensional strategy, right? Now, in a very generic sense, an efficient test automation strategy, or for that matter, any strategy, it revolves around the 5W and 1H. That is the why, what, who, when, where, and how of automation. So this approach pretty much solves all the strategy and planning problems in every space. So why not automation? Yes, it does, but it is a very generic plan and a generic strategy. But let's go deeper today and let's view the same problem from a bit different approach and angle. And what's that different angle? So let's now jump to a three-dimensional test automation strategy that we are going to discuss today. So starting with the first dimension, the foundation. Now, by the laws of construction, the foundation is the most important step in designing a 100-story state-of-the-art building. In terms of test automation strategy, the foundation or the first dimension refers to clearing the basics of testing and understanding the current state of testing and quality in your team and across the organization. So please note, we started with understanding the current state of testing and quality in the team, right? It starts with observation. This would mean how quality is perceived by every individual directly or indirectly involved in the SDLC, that is the software development lifecycle. Now, you need to identify the current test cases, test suites, test processes, so that you can smoothly integrate your automated scripts and pipelines in the current running processes. Or at least you know the improvement areas and slowly start to tweak the processes accordingly. Now, these points are very much necessary. I think there is no doubt they are very important, because when you are just starting to build an automation project, it is not at all advisable to change all the current processes in a single go, because this can draw repulsion and concerns from entire organization and multiple teams. So the right approach is to understand the current state, identify the good points as well as the possible loopholes of this current state, and then build upon this data in your research to propose moderate level changes to bring the entire vision of automation into the whole picture. Next, it also requires you to identify the current levels of testing which are covered across the SDLC and its specific coverage. This can be code coverage, test coverage, or any other coverage metric. Now, this normally includes what kind of test and validations are developers running as part of their development process, like unit test, integration test. Then what tests are run by QA or QE team in the testing phase. Similarly, what all tests are part of release engineering process or the release engineering team which handles the entire release cycle. And finally, what kind of test suites are run as part of post-production deployment sanity suites. I'll give you an example. So if your developers or the development team are already developing and running unit test and integration test as part of their development cycle, then you can easily collaborate with them and understand the code coverage of their unit test, so that you can now focus on more in-depth test cases while testing and automation to avoid the redundancy of the coverage, right? Going to the next point, which says, understand your application, which you are about to automate. So dig into the product flows based on the user journeys. For this, you need to sit with your product team, business team, and maybe data teams in your organization to understand the P0 user journeys or the golden user flows of your application. Similarly, put on your debugging hat and get an understanding on the end-to-end architecture of your application. Now, this includes the internals of the system or what is happening behind the UI. Say, normally, I would say there are multiple layers in an application if we see the end-to-end internals of the system, starting with the UI, the middleware, where normally the authentication, authorization, rate limiting, and load balancing happens. Then comes the microservice layer, or I would say the brain of our application, followed by the database layer, which is normally the storage layer. Now, there might be a WebSocket layer for TCP connections, a cache implementation to optimize the DB calls, and maybe some queues for asynchronous communication. Now, all of this understanding of the system internals would really help you to identify the layers you want to test with different types of automation, and what automation coverage is best for which type of scenario and test data. Let's take an example. A typical case of a sign-in flow. So suppose you have a set of 15 test data inputs that you want to test and automate for this sign-in flow. Now, generally, without going into the behind the curtains and what's happening in the internals of the system, and without knowing the layers of this R application, you might end up automating all the 15 test inputs from the UI itself, which would take forever to run and maintain. However, there can be an efficient approach. Now, if you know the deeper layers of your system and design an automation strategy in accordance with those layers, you will just automate maximum 2 or 3 test cases from the UI layer, and rest all the cases you will automate on the API or much deeper layers going till the database layer, thereby increasing the efficiency and maintainability of your automation system. Next, it is advisable to get deeper into user journeys and usage analytics. Yes, it is true for automation along with your normal test plans. Now, the more you understand your user, the better you will be able to optimize your automation and overall testing strategies. Now, one example, say in today's digitized world, the probable range of devices and operating systems in production used by our user base have increased exponentially, like Android 6 to 13, across the range of OEM or manufacturers, iOS devices, web OS, Tizen, Chrome, etc. So understanding the geographical distribution of your user base, the device, platform, and operating system on which your user is actually running your application in production will really help you in designing a better and efficient automation charter. Here is where some of the latest AI-powered end-to-end cloud solutions like pCloudy can really help you with these optimizations and ensuring that you are covering the entire horizon of devices and operating system when running your test and automation suites. Right? Next, keep a close eye on production stability and production incidents. Now, for this, you might want to meet with your customer support team and get the data on all the support tickets and their frequency on a weekly or a monthly basis. Now, understanding the production incidents and user experience issues is one of the most crucial metric which will guide you on what kind of scenarios you really want to automate and where to prioritize your efforts on early on in the project. Because our ultimate goal is to increase the product stability and give our user the best possible experience. For example, if you have your application hosted on, say, Google or Apple App Store, then you can try working with some of the store developers APIs and inject the user reviews on runtime to a machine learning based categorization algorithm, which will simply categorize all the reviews in multiple buckets and help everyone in the organization, including you and product, even tech team, to understand the user's top most pain points for all the 1 or 2 low star reviews. Of course, you can filter the stop words to take only the constructive feedback into consideration. But again, try to stay closer to your user and related production data while deciding what to automate. So as they rightly say, if you automate a mess, you get an automated mess, right? So the first task is to identify what's messy in the current system without directly jumping to automation and start to automate everything and anything. Now, it is very important that your automation strategy includes this point, that is the first dimension, since it will slowly unravel the current state of things for you and your team and basically make you ready for the next coming dimensions. So a quick recap. In the first dimension, we were laying a foundation stone and a strong base for understanding the application, the test cases and the current state of test processes, and the current user experience problems that is faced by your users on production, which majorly covers the question of what to automate. Right? Now, jumping to second dimension, which says automation system and tools. Okay, so let's go deeper into the second dimension. Now, first and foremost, you have to consider your automation project as an end-to-end software system or a development project. Then it is advisable to start gaining knowledge about different available tools, which will help you to take an informed decision around the selection of these specific tools as per your situation and condition. Now, this knowledge can be developed by planning and executing some POCs, that is proof of concept, followed by a group demo to chalk out the pros and cons of different available tools in the market and plan brainstorming discussions with the entire team to take everyone's past experience into account. Now, the most important thing is to explore and compare a set of tools which you feel are the right fit for your use case and your situation, right? Then comes the high level design of the entire automation system, which basically covers a block level map of the entire system's control and data flow. Now, this dimension also covers a detailed framework design and the design patterns to be used with the tech stack of the entire automation system. Now, this would normally cover the programming language, build tools, the test framework like JUnit, TestNG, Jest, CI and CD tools, reporting dashboards, tools for monitoring, alerting, and some cloud tools, etc. Next, we come to some of the problems that need to be discussed and solved at this phase in order to increase the maintainability and scalability of our framework later on. So the two pillars of this dimension are the maintainability and the scalability of our automation system. So you need to strategize and plan out different ways to generate test data and make our test independent of the environment that they are running on. Now, I've seen cases where the automation is tightly coupled with the box or environment it is running on, like staging box or a QA environment, thereby leading to flakiness when running on other environments and not allowing its global usage across the teams, right? So you cannot keep the automation to yourself or to specific to a box or an environment. You have to let it become global so that it can be used across the teams. And for that, you need test data independence. Then comes the planning around feasibility of parallel test execution to save time and resources. Now, this might sound like a small problem in the beginning, but believe me, this is one of the toughest nuts or things to crack, especially for UI automation. Now, this would require a solution at both your framework and the device lab end. So it becomes a very important problem to plan and strategize, especially early on in your strategy, right? The next is the problem of result reporting. Now, the result reporting structure, the format, frequency, and the channels on which you communicate these reports, like Slack, email, should be logged in this dimension to form clarity for the actual development, execution, and the coming phases of your strategy. Now, without a proper result report, your automation truly remains unexplored, especially by the management. Again, a very important part of this dimension is setting up your own test environment or the box, which includes your knowledge on code deployment, configuration, setup, database changes, thereby requiring a mastery on containerization tools like Docker, Kubernetes, and some of the cloud systems like AWS, Azure, and GCP. Now, monitoring these environments, boxes, and setting up alerts for any anomaly in box parameters is also a part of this dimension and your R&R. Now, this normally helps to ensure that automation pipelines are up and running in a healthy state, and you are alerted as soon as the box requires any kind of maintenance. Now, you can try out some of the tools like Prometheus, Sentry, etc. for this kind of environment health monitoring and alerting. And next, coming to one of my favorite points, which says automation analytics and designing analytical dashboards. Now, this is one of the most undervalued points in automation strategy, which leads to lack of visibility to higher management and affects the data points available to showcase the improvements in your automation system. It is always advisable to build analytical dashboards. Now, if you look at the reason is, you might want to share monthly or quarterly reports of your automation and show the improvement in flakiness, or say to showcase the improvement or the increase in the test coverage or the code coverage of your automation scripts, right? And for all these reports, you need some analytical or historical data. So you have to think through of all these requirements in your initial strategy. Otherwise, it becomes very late on the actual execution phase. Then comes a very important point, flaky test. You have to develop a strategy to identify, stabilize, and monitor your flaky test cases. Now, the flakiness is that bug which eats the entire credibility of your automation system if left unattended. But I don't mean that you have to have any sort of fear from flakiness. You have to befriend the flaky test cases, but make sure that it doesn't remain unattended. Right? That you are taking some or the other step on your flaky test as and when they occur, and don't leave them to rot. Otherwise, it will really eat up the entire credibility of the automation system that you have built with your hard work. So this dimension should cover the steps taken to keep flakiness in check. Now, this can also include building systems that auto-detect some of the flaky tests and do not run them in subsequent builds until an action is taken on these flaky test cases. Then coming to logging and debuggability. Now, these are the two most important points or tools required to reduce the time which is spent on analyzing automation failures and providing a possible RCA, and subsequently give a green signal to the development team or the release team in case of false negative results, right? Again, it amounts to the trust and the credibility of your automation system. So you would always want to have the highest possible levels of logging and debuggability so that uh, any kind of false negative does not become a reason of delayed releases, and your trust and credibility of the system remains high. Then we need a strategy to get rid of noisy and redundant tests. Now, what are noisy automated tests? Now, noisy tests can be the ones that require a lot of data setup, can come under the category of can be automated but should not be automated, or simply cost the company some money every time it is triggered on automation. So the process and system require regular refactoring of these automated cases. This amount to the much required maintenance of the system and automated scripts, which need to be efficiently planned in this dimension. Last but not the least, designing of CI and CD pipelines. Now, this is kind of a buzzword and a really important thing to consider while strategizing your automation project. CI and CD actually provides last mile connectivity to all the potential automation users by reducing the dependency and solving the problem of when and where to run our automation. Now, CI pipelines are really, really useful to collaborate with developers and run our test on every pull request or a code merge, thereby alerting developers of any faulty PR as soon as it is merged, right? So it ensures early feedback, as well as ensure that your automation is running and coming to use by the development team as well. Now, this strategy is very important to avoid a situation where automation or a QA team is running the automation scripts only once in twice or 3 weeks at the time of releases in the form of regression test. Now, running the automation only for regression solves very less purpose, and it doesn't leave a mark unless used in the right places and across the organization. Similarly, the continuous delivery and continuous deployment pipelines have to be designed and built to run your automation suites and ensure a shippable software ready, maybe at the end of every hour or even at the end of every day. Now, this is the basic difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. The continuous delivery pipeline ensures stable software ready to be deployed, but can be deployed at the desired frequency or with a simple button which you can manually click to start the production deployment. But a continuous deployment pipeline, along with everything, automates the step of production deployment also. So anyhow, coming back to the first point of dimension, which is the tools. You require latest tools and solution to build these pipelines covering the entire horizon of your SDLC, like testing at each stage and ready integration with third-party tools, for example, Jira or Slack in your organization. I would really recommend you all to try out a POC with some of the front-runner cloud provider solutions like pCloudy, which can really help your team in building some efficient CI/CD automation pipelines and the right test approach. So as they rightly say, the age of automation is going to be the age of do it yourself, which is very evident from some of the above strategies that we have discussed in the second dimension. Now, if you would note, there is no dependency to be created on DevOps or any other team to design our pipelines, monitoring the environment, setting up our own environment in boxes, dashboards, analytical reports, and we take the responsibility of our own systems as quality engineering team. Take time to learn and strategize, but slowly remove all the dependency on other teams for the above mentioned task. And that is what our second dimension is all about. So a quick recap. In the second dimension, we started to focus on entire system, the tools, the frameworks, design patterns, and reporting, which is the core of our automation strategy, thus ensuring the success and return on investment by solving the when, where, how of automation. So by now, in our first two dimensions, we have covered the what, how, when, and where to run our automation. Now coming to the final and the third dimension, which gives this strategy a 3D edge, which is all about culture, people, and collaboration. Now, this dimension covers the most important question, which is the why of automation. Yes, your team should be very clear of the exact purpose of building this automation strategy and project. Now, it can be to reduce the redundant efforts of engineers by executing the test cases in an automated manner. It can be an early feedback to the developers for improving the build quality, or it can be to improve the overall production quality or to achieve better coverage, or even all of these. But you have to be clear with your why. Once you are aware of the purpose, it becomes easier to showcase its ROI and build upon your strategy. And it really opens a lot of gates for your overall growth of the team and the project. Next comes the mindset of your team and even the entire organization towards quality, automation, and testing. Now, the best way to create a mindset is to find like-minded people across teams and take their help in broadcasting your message and your context to set the right tone about quality across the organization. And this should be focused to make everyone understand the common goal that everyone is striving for on a daily basis, that is to create value with quality. Now, this common goal can be better explained with the help of sharing your vision and mission to achieve this goal. Now, a mission statement defines the objectives and how you plan to reach these objectives. And on the other hand, a vision statement details the milestones towards that mission. For example, a short-term vision for every quarter or on a monthly basis, and a long-term vision for quality. Now, once you are done with strategizing and designing and even building your CI/CD pipelines, you will realize the importance of other continuous strategies that are less discussed, which are continuous testing and continuous collaboration. Now, coming to continuous testing. Now, it is required for your team and entire organization to move towards the ideal agile software development methodology. Now, without this, the testing process remains stuck in the past practices, even as organizations invest considerable time and money into transforming their development processes to agile and meet tomorrow's business demands. Again, in order to achieve continuous testing, you need to take some critical build versus buy decisions. And as per the current market competition, digitization, and urgent go-to-market deadlines, it really makes sense for most of the teams to choose and buy these off-the-shelf solutions. Now, this is where tool providers like pCloudy can really help us in ensuring continuous testing and building quality-focused pipelines from design to deployment stage of our SDLC. Similarly, there is another continuous strategy, which is continuous collaboration. Now, what do you mean by a continuous collaboration? So it is a process where you closely collaborate with all the potential users of your automation in each steps of your SDLC, so that your automation strategy, so that you ensure that your automation maintenance and improvement does not remain a role and responsibility for just you and your team in future. Rather, it becomes an organization-wide effort. And this organization-wide effort and ownership with responsibility cannot be achieved without continuous collaboration, right? So you have to work together with all the cross-functional teams and understand their requirement, thereby packaging your automation in a personalized box and sending to each team for solving their use case. So here you're trying to solve another team's problem with your product or your built-in system. So naturally you have to understand their pain point areas and speak in their language. So using the right set of process and prioritizing people interaction along with tools in our strategy, we are trying to build the right, you can say, automation and quality culture and mindset. Now, this mindset, culture, collaboration, and ownership that we are talking about play a very important role in defining the leadership support or the senior management support to invest in automation. Now, you need to prove the worth of your system and show them the ROI by right marketing strategies using analytical reports, improvement reports with proof points, case studies, etc. Now, remember that even the best products in the market like WhatsApp or any other product require timely advertising and marketing efforts to be on the top. Now, having a strong leadership support and right marketing steps as part of your automation strategy will really help you to get the budget for some third-party tools, thus saving a lot of your time from building in-house replicas. You would require approvals and budget for hiring and building the right set of talented team with the required talent and skills. Next, after hiring, you need to focus on their growth and training of all the hired members. Now, all these points in the third dimension make up for the right culture and mindset across the organization for building the unbreakable layer of automation and quality for years and years to come. Now, once you build the right culture and collaboration across the teams, you are now working towards a sustainable automation project. Now, what do you mean by a sustainable automation project? I would say a sustainable project is one which is both maintainable and scalable and everlasting. So you have to keep the motivation really high among the entire team by sharing the point of utopia for your automation journey. So at last, I would really press upon the importance of the need to strategize for continuous improvement by forming a feedback loop using surveys, polls, regular feedback or one-on-ones with cross team members to know the improvement point of your automation system and continuously work towards that point of utopia or your expectations. And remember, no one can help you more than your critics. So if you can filter out the constructive feedback, of course. So like keep all the feedback coming in from across the teams and just keep improving your pipelines, processes, automation systems, scripts, and the tooling. And again, as they rightly say, quality is not an act, it is a habit, which is evident from prioritizing people, collaboration, mindset, and culture in the third dimension of our automation strategy, wherein we are trying to create a habit in each member of our organization to think about the quality in the right manner. So a quick recap. The third dimension covers the who and why of our automation strategy. Who means who are the stakeholders or users of our automation, and why covers the purpose and vision along with the mission of our automation strategy and quality culture. So with this, we cover all the three dimensions of our multi-dimensional test automation strategy: the foundation, the automation system and tools, and the third dimension being all about culture, people, and mindset. Please note that each of these dimensions are equally important and basically pushes and balances each other in a circular fashion. Therefore, even a little imbalance or any deprioritization of any of these dimensions will result in a downfall and possible failure of our entire automation strategy. So the first dimension taught us the what. The second dimension taught us when, where, and how. And third dimension taught us the why and who of automation. And I think that is the holistic view that we were talking about at the start of our webinar. Now, in the last few minutes, you all must have realized a feeling of increasing ownership and our strategy dimensions going on from me to we, that is the team or the testing team to entire organization, from just testing and automation to quality, culture, and mindset. Now let's discuss the mapping of these dimensions that we just discussed to different team hierarchy levels. Now, it is obviously not possible to construct all the three dimensions by a single quality engineer or a software engineer without the support of the next layer, that is the leads and architects. Similarly, the lead and architect cannot carry the entire burden of this strategy on their shoulders without the support of management and leadership. So how can each layer or each hierarchical level contribute their bit to the success of automation systems? Yes, it is now time to map our 3D model with different team hierarchy levels. Now, the first dimension, that is the foundation, it is basically the base to be mastered at the level of quality engineer 1 or 2, especially if you are in the 0 to 3 years experience of this role. This would give you the confidence to understand the application, the design, test processes, efficient test cases, and knowing what is lagging in the production by understanding the production incidents, stability concerns to solve what to automate. Now, the second dimension, I'm sorry. Yeah. Now, the second dimension, it basically covers the automation system and tools, which is to be mastered at the level of senior or a lead automation engineer to architect levels. This would give you the clarity about tools, frameworks, designs, CI/CD pipelines, continuous testing, and continuous delivery to solve when, where, and how of automation. And finally, the third dimension, where you would be mastering the people, culture, and mindset. You would really need this dimension when you're trying for the role of test managers or directors and even higher leadership levels. This would really help you to build a sustainable system with the right mindset clarity of vision and mission across the entire team, and high motivation levels across all the members, with a continuous focus on improvement and building an entire system. Finally, this in turn defines a three-dimensional growth path and stepping stone for a test engineer career or a quality engineer career. So as I told you, that this represents a three-dimensional growth path, that is the role and responsibility for a quality engineer role. Try to master the basics and fundamentals first, then master the tools, frameworks, pipeline, and the entire system. Finally, to learn how to collaborate and change the mindset about quality. The core, or I would say that the major learning of this discussion is to rise above testing and start talking about quality, to set the right context and the right mindset. Enable the cross-functional teams to own quality. As we say, quality is everyone's ownership, but we are the enablers. So enable the cross-functional teams to own this quality with different quality gates present at different stages of your software development lifecycle. And you will see yourself turning into a great quality engineering leader very, very soon. So on this note, I would like to end today's webinar with a question for all of us, that is there a fourth dimension that you have experienced in your journey and would like to discuss? Then please come up with your points in the following Q&A sessions. And thank you for being such a lovely audience. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn to discuss more on this topic. Charolyn, over to you.
Thank you, Sahil, for an enlightening and interesting session. So it's time for Q&A now. So audience, if you have any questions, you can ask away. You can drop your questions on the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of the screen. Okay, Sahil, here's a question from Prateek. He's asking, do we have any solution for CarPlay or on Android Auto?
Hey, hi Prateek. Yes, that's surely an out of context discussion, but first of all, I'm not very sure of what solution are you asking. Is it a testing solution or an automation solution? Because yes, surely there are both testing and automation solutions available for CarPlay or Android Auto. Again, provided if you are trying to test just the software or the entire firmware or even the hardware. So your approach would matter. And I would really suggest you, if you can break out these layers, test the hardware in isolation, test the software in isolation, and then combine and do system testing. That would be the best way to test these kind of systems like Android Auto. Yes, I see a question from Manish. Can I take it up?
Sure.
Yeah. So Manish is asking, what are your thoughts on in-sprint automation in Agile and how should we handle it? So Manish, I would say it's a journey. You start with clearing the backlog of your regression and sanity and smoke test and build those pipelines and train the team with the right set of trainings or tools. And when you see yourself invested for about 3 to 5 months and your backlog clearing to around 70 to 80%, then I think it is the right time, and it kind of becomes inevitable in order to maintain the current scripts that you switch to in sprint automation or maybe +1 sprint automation. But yes, I would say I definitely support the idea of in sprint automation. At least try and cover the smoke or the sanity part. while working on a feature ticket before its deployment. That would really help to keep our scripts updated, maintained, and our automation coverage on the top levels. Okay, Ravindra is asking, testers are remembered when there is an issue, how to change that mindset. So Ravindra, I think we discussed that point in very detail, and I definitely empathize with you. But that is the third dimension, all about is creating the mindset for quality. And I touched this topic also to how to enable different teams and different departments to ensure quality at their level. So you can play the role of that enabler. So for example, if there is an issue and you are remembered, so first of all, that's a good thing. Go on and understand the RCA, understand why you missed that bug, and what all you can do to save that leakage. But then go above the ladder, try to do the bottom up approach and understand why it was missed from the unit test, on the integration test from the developer end, why it was missed from the code reviews, and even why it was introduced in the first place. So I think we have to live through the journey of finding bugs to preventing bugs. And once you start understanding this difference on how to work towards preventing bugs by collaborating with your development and product teams, I think your problem will start to solve slowly. Yeah. So Pranup is asking for a QA manager strategy. He joins an organization and how to change, modify, and involve the framework, how to go about tweaking the culture tool adoption. So Pranup, the first mistake that most of us makes is trying to come with our own baggage of experience and try to change the culture. So the first idea is not, we don't have to change the culture. The first idea is, as a manager, when you join a new organization, you have to understand the current culture, the current set of tools and framework, and then try to make relations to understand the, as I told, the good part, the good points, and the pain points. There must be some pain points, and there must be some loopholes or improvement points that are still left, because that is true for any system. Try to pick those improvement points and bring your experience into the picture with improving the current system only, rather than changing the entire game from 180-degree. That would not solve the purpose. How ROI is calculated for an automation plan? I think this is an anonymous question. So I think, as I again touched the point, we have to be very clear of why when deciding or strategizing the automation plan. So the ROI would come from your why only. Why, on the first place, you decided to start automation? Was it to achieve the right set of device coverage? Was it to achieve the right set of code coverage? Or even was it to reduce some of the possible efforts of your own QA team members by automating the checks, right? And when you know your why, you can collect some data, maybe on a monthly basis, to check the ROI and what gain are you exactly getting on those whys which you decided much before, right? So it again boils down to your strategy, which has to be perfect. Okay. I think the last question, which says that how do we convince management who is a bit reluctant to change their mindset about tool selection? I think I would say, just one word: collaborate, build relations. Okay, make them understand your experience and your pain points if you're using that tool and not finding it worthy. And again, most of the logical discussions end with data and research. So try out proof of concepts, try out different tools available in the market, and mark them against a set of categories like cost, like availability, like service, customer service after sales, any kind of network lag or flakiness. And when you give these tools some points against these four or five, categories, and the tool that wins will be, a no-brainer to choose. So that will avoid any kind of pre-bias for any particular tool. So Ravindra is asking, other teams and majority seniors always say why testers take so long to test without understanding the details and how you deal with that. Ravindra, the right answer is you have to learn from your experiences and give data to prove that you would require X number of days to test a particular feature. You can complete that in 1 day also, or in 2 day also, or X minus 2 days. But then what is the risk that is, getting left in those 2 days that they're trying to shrink? And once you tell them the risk, it is again a business, product, tech, and QA. So I would say it's a joint discussion and decision to again uh, a trade-off between speed and quality and the risk. So our job or your job is to set out the right risk and bring them on the table and discuss with everyone. So Vikrant is asking, do we need to include business validations in the automated regression test suite for SAP modules, or can we cover them separately as process flow is quite lengthy as dependency on dependent modules? I think, Vikrant, this question is very much specific to your use case. Normally, yes, we do cover the business validations in smoke or even sanity or regression test suites because, those are the P0 requirement as part of our traceability metrics. But if your pipeline or it is taking too much time, then you can again discuss with the business guys and the product guys and see what would they prefer, and take a collaborative decision. So again, a question from anonymous. It says, what's your view on image based automation solutions for UI based Windows application like SQLi, Image Horizon? Since we are trying POCs on such solution, we face frequent issues. So again, you're trying to build some in-house replicas which are already present in the form of some latest cloud solutions, including pCloudy. So I would suggest to get in touch with these tools and the tool providers, have a demo, have a POC, and even try to work very closely with the tool POCs to create a hypothesis for your management. uh, when you are living through this demo and the phase of creating hypothesis and POC, you will see yourself learning a lot during this time, and hopefully you get the approval and you solve the problem with the available tools rather than building in-house solutions.
Okay, thank you, Sahil, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. So it was a pleasure to have you with us, and I'm confident that the strategies and insights that you shared will be of great help to all of us who work on improving our test automation efforts and strategies. So with this, we'll conclude the webinar. Thank you all for attending, and we hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. And remember to keep breaking free and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the QA industry. So see you at the next break free session. Till then, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.